I'm working in the Microsoft Access 2010 textbook. I'm in Tutorial 6, and I'm starting the chapter on page AC 289. We're going to start by changing the data type of the customer ID field. We're going to take a look at the relationships in the documenter. Then we'll take a look at using the form tools over on page 294 and quickly run through the examples that we see there. So let's start by opening the contract table and take a look at the lookup that we have here. I'll just choose the second item here, Karen O'Brien, and look at the lookup that we have created here. What I want you to be aware of is that when you choose another item from this drop-down list, you are assigning this contract to that customer. So currently record number 3012 is assigned to Karen O'Brien. If I choose another name on the list, like Olivia Pappas, that contract now belongs to Olivia Pappas. It no longer belongs to Karen O'Brien. So you need to be careful when you're experimenting with that drop-down list so that you don't accidentally assign a contract to another customer. But what we're going to do now is we'll get rid of it. We'll go to Design View, choose the Customer ID field, go to Lookup, Display Control, and we'll change the Display Control to Text Box. Make sure it says Text Box. Save, go back to Design View, and resize the column to fit. And we'll need to save again because resizing the column to fit is a formatting change. So click Save and close it. Next thing we're going to take a look at is going back into the database tools, relationships, and reestablishing the relationship between customer ID and customer ID. Enforce referential integrity, cascade update to related fields, create. Now that we're in the relationship window, let's take a look at the relationship report. That's over on page AC 291. We'll click Relationship Report, and it produces a report showing the relationships in this particular database. If we save this report in the database, I just want you to be aware that the report is static. That means if we were to go in and add perhaps another name to, or another field to the customer table, we wanted to know their URL. It would not be reflected in this report because the report is static. It is saved at the time it's created and it is not automatically updated. What we want to do with this report is we want to export it. And so I want to export it, if I can find the right one here, to PDF. So I'm going to publish as PDF. And so what you'd need to do is find the location where you want to save this file, give it a name, and publish it to that location. So I'll just put it on my desktop. After I've keyed in the file name, I'll click Publish. It will bring up the Save Export steps. We wouldn't need to save the export steps if this is something that we're going to do on a regular basis. And I click Close. I'm done with this report. I'll click Close. It will take me back to Relationship View, Relationship Report. I'm going to go ahead and close Relationships and say yes, I'll save it. Go back to Database Tools, and the next thing we're going to look at is the Documenter. So I'm going to click Database Documenter. It's going to open up the Documenter window. And here I have the option of documenting tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, everything. In this particular database, if I were to document everything, my Documenter report would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 225 pages. That's why your book doesn't ask you to document the whole database. But in real life, you probably would. We're just going to go ahead and document the one table that they're asking us to document. Over on page AC 292, we're going to choose the contract table. We're not done yet. We're going to go into options. The first time you open the Print Table Definition dialog box, you'll see the first three options will be selected, and usually the bottom option in both Include for Fields and Include for Indexes will be selected. In our textbook, we've been asked just to choose the middle one. What this does is just going to cut down again on the number of pages. If you were documenting your own database, you'd want to keep as much information as possible. The book is having you choose a lesser number of properties and attributes, simply because if you were asked to print it for class, it'd be too many pages. So make sure that the middle options are selected, click OK, and click OK again. And your report is created. It'll be about 2.5 pages long. If you're asked to print this, again, you could click Print to print it, or you could save it to PDF by going up and clicking the PDF icon, giving it a name, and saving it. I'm going to go ahead and cancel. And I'll close Print Preview. You are not even given an option to save this report in the database. The next thing we'll take a look at is creating forms using form tools. We're going to run through this quickly. Create. And the first one we're going to look at is Table Contract, and we're just going to click on Datasheet. It creates a form that looks like a table. I only have two views available, Datasheet View and Design View. This particular form was first introduced with Access 2007. I'm not going to save it. The next option we'll take a look at is the Multiple Items tool. And again, Create, More Forms, and Multiple Items. It's going to create a tabular form based on the contract table. That's the one I have selected. On it now we do have the Form View, Layout View, and Design View. And it is just simply, as I said, a tabular form. Close. And we're not going to save this one either. The next one we'll take a look at is the Split Form tool. Create, More Forms, Split Form. It's going to create a form for me where I have the data sheet at the bottom and the form view in columnar layout at the top. So I could select a record from the bottom. It shows in the top, and then it might be easier for me to use the top section of the form to make changes. Now we've been asked to make a few changes to this. I'm going to go ahead and in Layout View, I'll click the Arrange tab. From the Arrange tab, I'm going to click any one of the fields in the upper part of the split form. When I click any one of those fields, I should see a plus sign appear in the upper right-hand corner. This is the Layout selector. When I click on it, all of my objects in the upper section are selected. And now what we're asked to do is scroll over and grab any one of these and shorten it. Now that I've shortened them enough so that they show in my window, I'll go ahead and shorten them a little more. Don't want to do it too small. If I get it too small, then I won't be able to see my dates. The contract type down at the bottom, I'm going to split that off anyway. I'll select it, and from here, I'll right-click on it. This is going to scroll off my screen. I have a shortcut menu down towards the bottom. You're not going to be able to see this. It says Layout and Remove Layout. So contract type has been removed from the layout. The other controls are still in the layout. I'll grab it, and when I move it over, the label stays behind. So I'll put it back. Select both of them by using my Control key and move them both over. Once they're both over, then I'll take the contract type text box and resize it a bit. I'll save this as Form Contract Split. Okay, the next thing we're going to play around with here is over on the bottom of page AC 301, control padding and control margins. So if I select these, I'm going to go to control margins, and we'll just take a look as I go through none, narrow, medium, wide, put it back to narrow, and then we'll take a look at control padding. None, it puts them together. Narrow, medium, wide. You can see that control margins changes the distance of the text from the border of the box. Control padding changes the distance between the boxes. Now the best way to get this back to where it was at the beginning is just to undo, 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 undo until you have it back to where it was when you started. Now I'll go ahead and save this again. Even though the book tells you set it to narrow and set it to narrow, you will see that setting it to narrow doesn't take it back to exactly where it was to begin with. But I can undo to take it back. The next thing we'll take a look at here is anchoring. Anchoring is kind of a painful process. And to anchor, I'm going to take and give myself a little more room here. I'm going to take these controls and I'm going to remove them from the layout. And then I'm going to grab them, and with the anchoring, I'm going to anchor them to the bottom left. I'm going to take this control and I'm going to anchor it to the top right. And I'll take these controls over on this side and I'll anchor them to the top left. They won't move, but now when I start resizing this, I should see those controls move on the page. It's kind of like working with a web page. You've probably seen it where as you put the web page in a window, all the controls move in, and as you expand the web page so it takes up the full screen, particularly those of you that are using very large screens, the controls on the web page move outward so that they still maintain their position relative to the border of the screen. So you can see with the resizing. And we don't want to save that, so we're just going to go ahead and close here without saving.